Welcome to the first lecture for Psych 350 Personality. My name is Dr. Sam Fiala, and I will be your professor this semester. I do a couple of things in this video. One, go over the syllabus, talk a little about the assignments and expectations. And then two, talk just a little bit about Chapter 1 of the Berger text. So start off looking at the syllabus here. You see my name and contact information. But the course overview, the objectives, kind of what you should be able to do once you finish this course. It's about understanding personality, but also it's about being able to understand the empirical basis for the claims that people make about personality and about behavior in general. This is an online course, fully online course, and we're using a new version of Blackboard this semester, new to us anyway. So we may hit some bumps along the way as we're all learning the new system. So hang in there and stay with me as I'm learning the new system as well. Your textbook, as you hopefully already know from looking at the book list online, is Berger's Personality, 8th edition. The last page of the syllabus is a calendar with the schedule of reading. And since this is an online course, you may be interested in getting an online copy of the book. I know they have it, because I have one through, I think it's Cengage's Course Smart. Other people may have it too. I don't know. The best way to get a hold of me is using the email platform in Blackboard, which I think is now called Messages, unless I go back and rename it email. But I'll try to get back to you within 24 hours if you email me. I don't have a smartphone or anything like that, so I'm not plugged in all the time. But I will check my email every day, at least once during the week, and then once on the weekends. If you want to meet face to face, be glad to set up a meeting to come to the office, or we can also meet virtually using a chat room function in Blackboard. Even though this is an online course, it's not a self-paced class. It's not a bunch of canned stuff that you just do at your own pace. And I can put it off, and at the end of the semester, I'm going to really lock myself in a room and knock out all this stuff in 2 weeks. Course is not designed that way because I don't think, even though you might be able to do it and you might be able to pass, I don't think you would learn anything like that. So there are multiple deadlines, just like a regular face-to-face traditional class. But you do still have the luxury of completing the work from anywhere and having some more flexibility about when you're going to work on things and when you're going to turn things in. The assignments, the first couple are listed here. The article critiques, 4 of them. In the Berger text, after the first 2 chapters, he starts talking about the theories of personality, and there's a chapter on Freudian theory, and the next chapter is research related to Freudian theory. There's a chapter on trait theory, and the next chapter is research related to trait theory. So that means that there are 4 chapters. There are 8 chapters about theories and research. So 4 of the chapters are on research. You'll pick an article from. I'm sorry, my math mixed up. 6, 7 theories. Yeah. There's 7 chapters on research. So of the 7 chapters on research, you'll pick 4 of them to work with. So maybe you want to say, oh, I like the chapter on research on Freudian theory. Oh, no, I like the one on cognitive, I like the one on humanistic, and I like the one on the biological approach. I like those 4. Maybe I'm interested in those. Okay. So you look through that chapter, and you find one empirical article from each chapter that's cited in that chapter, where they say something about personality. Oh, here's how people are. Here's a finding, and you track down that resource. And you look in the reference section of the textbook to get the full citation, and then you go look it up on PsycInfo or somewhere, and you read the article yourself, right? And then you critique the article. And I'll provide you a form with some more guidelines on exactly what I want you to do with that. But as I can see, there's still some typos in the syllabus, as there always are. And here it says the three critiques, but it's four. Um, okay, then the stability of personality journal. The first 2 months of the semester, you'll be making these journal entries in Blackboard. Um, and the first one, what I want you to do is think of some descriptor, some adjective that describes yourself, and not a physical attribute, but something about your personality, about yourself. Oh, I'm intelligent, I'm honest, I'm frugal, I'm lazy, I'm whatever. Right? Some word this really describes me. And then you're gonna write that down, and then try to think of an example of at least one behavior in the past week of okay, I think of myself being really frugal, and this past week whenever I could have bought 10 of one of something, I only bought 5. That was really frugal of me, right? And then also think, okay, in the past week, when was I not frugal? When was I not that way, that descriptor? And write that down. You don't have to write about why. You can if you want to, but you don't have to at this point. Um, and you're done for this week. And then each week for the first couple of weeks, you won't come up with a new descriptor. You stay with that same one. So you pick that one descriptor at the beginning, and then each week you'll say, okay, now this week I was frugal, I was honest, I was whatever, and I saw that in myself this way. But if somebody had seen me doing this, they sure wouldn't think I was this way. Right? So here's some time when I was inconsistent. And then at the end of the 2 months, you'll have a brief little write-up talking about why you think your behavior was when it was consistent. Why are you that way? Why are you frugal? Why are you honest? And then when you weren't, why did that happen? Okay. Next assignment, the character study. This is I think one that the students seem to have had fun with in the past. It's kind of interesting, where you come up with some fictional character, not any relative or romantic partner, some fictional character from TV, movies, books, whatever, that you're fairly familiar with, and then you're going to develop a personality profile, right, using at least two of the theories, two of the theoretical perspectives. So maybe neo-Freudian versus cognitive. So you won't use two from the same chapter. You won't use like two neo-Freudian theories, but you pick one neo-Freudian and one humanistic, right? And you'll describe the character, what they're like. Well, according to this way of looking at it, when they do this thing, it's because of this, or they're seen this way. But with this theory, they're seen this way. And what you really want to focus on here is, where do the theories kind of agree, and where do they diverge and maybe disagree. Again, and I'll provide you a rubric with more details about that assignment as well. Then the excuse me, personality assessment by discussion. Another interesting assignment. Where you'll be working with some of your classmates. I've assigned you to groups, just broken into groups of 4, based on last name alphabetically. Where basically you're going to be trying to assess and measure the personality of your group members. So each week you'll post a question to your group's discussion board. Each group has its own discussion board that only they can post to. I think I set it up that way. And you'll post a question that everybody else has to answer. And you go ahead and answer your own question too. Right, just to be fair, and they're going to post questions, and you answer their questions. And then each week, that's all you do is you post a question and answer their questions. And to help it be consistent and useful, I do set some parameters here, and the question has to be in a certain format. So it has to be, to what degree is the following statement true for you? And then after that, you can put whatever statement you want, but have that, and then the options are, 1, not at all true, 2, 5, completely true of me. So whenever you write your question, to what degree, blah, blah, make some statement, give a number for yourself. For me, it's a 3, it's a 4, whatever. And then when somebody else posts a question, you answer it with, I'm a 4, I'm a 3, I'm a 2, whatever it is. Okay? Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. And you do have, oh, that won't be due that's not due till next week. But your first journal entry which we talked about earlier, is coming up due. You have one due Saturday night, so make sure you get on that. Looking down from the assignments down to the assessments, you've got quizzes and then one exam. Um, you've got one really short little, I think it's like a 5-question syllabus quiz, just to it's for me to make sure that you read the syllabus and don't ask me questions that are in the syllabus already. So should be easy squeezy for you. And then the rest of the quizzes are over your reading, and they're open book. They're not open friend. You can't do them with a buddy. You have to do it by yourself. But if you've done the reading, they should be pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Not meant to be taxing, and you will get to drop your lowest 2 quiz grades. Okay. The final exam will be comprehensive, mixture of multiple choice and short essay, which hopefully will be more than just regurgitating material, but really a test of your ability to think about the material and apply it to real life situations. Okay. After that syllabus, we have lots of other information about logging on to Blackboard, which if you're watching this, you've figured that out already. But if some things don't work in Blackboard, some you can do your browser compatibility check, and frequently there are some weird browser things. If you're using Internet Explorer, try switching over to I don't know, one of the other ones, Mozilla, Chrome, or whatever. If you're using one of those and it's not working, switch to Internet Explorer. And just kind of fiddle around with it, and usually you can figure out some workaround to the glitches. Some information there about technology support, who to contact, which has changed from previous semesters. Academic integrity policy, which they take very seriously. Expect you to do your own work. There's no research paper in this course, so don't need to talk a lot about plagiarism for this class, but I would encourage you to be mindful of it in any other classes. It's supposed to be a problem here, not so much because people are intentionally plagiarizing, but because people don't seem to appreciate the appropriate way to cite articles. If you ever have any questions about that, I'd be glad to talk to you about it. Okay. Information on disability support, library services, and I'll put up a video at some point, just a little tutorial, nothing you'll be test over, but with information about how to find articles with our library databases online. Unilert, tutoring, blah blah blah. The drop policy, if you're going to drop, you got to make sure you do the paperwork. Stuff you care about now. The grading. Kind of a standard breakdown of what things are worth. The late work policy, pay attention to that. If something is late, it's minus 10% for each day or part of a day that it's late. So if it's an hour late, well, that's a day. If it's 6 hours late, that's a day. If it's 25 hours, well, that's 2 days. But I know things happen, and sometimes you end up turning stuff in way late. If that happens, actually, if you've missed a deadline, you've just forgotten about something, or something's come up in your life where you've not been able to get your work done, and you think, oh, geez, so there's no point in doing it because I can't get any points. So I've set it up where the most you can lose is 50%. I'll stop taking points away because I still want there to be some value to the assignment for you, because the assignments aren't for me; they're for you to learn, and so I won't take off any more than 50%. You can read my thoughts about coursework online, and this course in particular, which I think is a really interesting course, one that even if you're not a psychology major, you're going to go into kind of the field of mental health. Some interesting stuff here just about why people do the things they do, and some interesting perspectives thinking about those types of things. The last bit of the syllabus is the calendar, which you can see. This first week, you've got basically what the reading and the video will be on the left, and then what's due on the right. And most things, I think everything's due Saturday evening at just before midnight. So this week you need to knock out that syllabus quiz, which is 5 questions, the chapter 1 quiz, which is 10 questions, multiple choice, and then your first journal entry, where you come up with your adjective, and then one example of how you were that way, one example of how you weren't that way this past week. And if you do that, you're good until next Saturday, and then start reading. Because most weeks you just have one chapter to read, but we've kind of front-loaded a little bit because everybody gets tired toward the end. So you do have 2 chapters the next week, so it gets a little heavy there. Okay. The rest of the calendar, nothing to do over spring break. Okay. Okay, so that's it for the syllabus. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, and I'll try to get back to you. Talk a little bit about Chapter 1 of Berger, Defining Personality. Excuse me. First, I want to talk a little bit about what you know about personality. Maybe let's do a little test here. So I've got just a few little questions here. Nothing you're going to be graded on, but if you would just get a little piece of paper, jot down your answers. Just true, false. 10 of them right here. The first one, true or false? People who are tense and anxious are less likely to laugh at something funny than people who are relaxed. So if you're tense and anxious, you're less likely to laugh at the funny thing than people who are relaxed. True or false? Don't rack your brain. Hey, true, false. Hey, put an answer. Okay, next one. Angry people who are allowed to let off steam, such as by hitting someone with a harmless foam bat, which you often see on sitcoms, are less likely to act aggressively than are angry people who are not allowed to release their tension. True or false? Whether or not a person responds to hypnotic suggestions depends largely on how good the hypnotist is. True or false? Extroverts, people who enjoy excitement and social gatherings, generally are more sensitive to external stimulation than introverted people. A business person who's willing to take high financial risks in order to achieve a potentially large payoff probably has a high need to achieve. Okay, so true or false for each of those. And we got 5 more here. A type A person typically works harder than a type B person, regardless of how trivial or simple the task. Students who suffer from loneliness usually overcome this problem when they start attending a large university with a lot of people their age. A couple is most likely to have a happy relationship when the man is masculine and the woman is feminine. Children are less likely to imitate the aggression they see portrayed on television when the person who acts aggressively is the hero and the aggression is seen as justified. And the last one, a person who fails repeatedly on a task and decides there is nothing he or she can do about it will respond by working harder on the next task he or she faces. Okay. So true or false, true or false, true or false, true or false. 10 questions. Okay. So got all your answers down. Now we'll take a look at the answers. Well, they're all false. And we'll revisit this later. And each of these things are things that are going to be covered in the course, and we'll talk about why they're false as we come to them. If you're like me, if you are like I was at this stage of my education, in my undergraduate classes, upper level stuff, I would still have gotten most of these wrong, right? Because of kind of common sense. And what seems to be common sense, what seems like it should be true, isn't always supported by research. And that's what makes this stuff so interesting and I think worth reading about and talking about. Is what we think we know about people isn't necessarily what's true about people. All right, so let's talk about defining personality. Your book's definition of personality, it involves consistent behavior patterns and intrapersonal processes. Okay, so let's break that down. Consistent. How is it consistent? Well, we're talking about consistent across time and across situations. So the way you behaved a year ago is similar to the way you behave now. There's consistency. Yesterday to today, 5 years ago to today to 2 years in the future. There'll still be some similar behaviors being exhibited that are observable. And then across situations as well. So if you're, shy at a party, then maybe you're shy also in class. If you talk a lot in class, maybe you talk a lot at a party. Right? So it's consistent across time and across situations. And these are so it's consistency, and then it's consistent two things: behavior patterns and interpersonal processes. Behavior patterns we've already kind of talked about. It's what you typically do, right? So when someone cuts you off in traffic, how do you typically respond? Right? I guess they're in a hurry, and you wave them happily along their way, or maybe you speed up and try to maybe bump them with your car. You just wave to them with one finger. Well, you have some consistent reaction behaviorally that you do, right? So it's a behavior pattern, but you also may have a consistent intrapersonal process. An intrapersonal process, it's a fancy way of saying what you typically think and feel. So when somebody cuts you off, how do you interpret that? Do you interpret that as an act against yourself? Do you think, oh, that's a stupid person? Right? And then do you get angry? Do you get scared? Right? What goes on inside of you? Those are your intrapersonal processes. And according to some personality theorists and researchers, there's consistency there. That given the same type of situations or stimuli, you tend to perceive things, you tend to feel things a certain way, and that defines who you are and defines your personality. Right? But not everybody agrees, right? Excuse me. Does this consistency really exist? Is there really such a thing as personality? Not everybody agrees. Let's think of an example here, kind of to help think about this. Think about why do some online students cheat in their classes? And research suggests that it does happen in an online setting at a slightly higher rate than in the face-to-face setting. So if you had to make a list, jot down a few ideas. Why do some students in online classes, why do they cheat? You can even, if you want to think about this for a while, pause the video and jot a few things down. Okay. So either you've restarted the video or you didn't care to pause it, and let's move forward. So looking at your list, assuming you have one, you probably have a couple of things like low self-esteem. Maybe they had a crappy instruction, so they felt justified. Maybe they're just an immoral person. Maybe there was pressure to succeed. Right? Lots of different reasons. Right? And now I say, okay, look at your list and divide it into two columns, where everything in one column is similar to each other, and everything in the other column is similar to each other, but the two columns are different. And see if you can create two factors. Right? You're basically doing a factor analysis by hand here, intuitive factor analysis. What will those two columns look like? Probably, for like most people, you end up with one column that's sort of dispositional variables. Oh, this person, people, they do it because they have low self-esteem, or because they are immoral. And in the other column, you're going to have situational variables, situational factors, the pressure to succeed, the crappy instruction. Right? And most people agree that behavior is determined by some combination of these two broad factors. But there are some that believe that there's only one factor at play, situation, that there is no personality. Right? And that if it looks like your behavior is consistent, then all that is a reflection of how consistent your environmental inputs are. And that everything that you do is just a reaction to some combination of environmental inputs. And there is no disposition, no personality. What if that were true? What if personality didn't exist? What would that mean? Right? Well, one thing it would mean, it'd be a heck of a lot easier to predict behavior. We could predict behavior with certainty if we knew enough information about a situation, right? Because if it doesn't matter what kind of person you are, all that matters is what's the situation. If I can assess that, right? Because what kind of person you are, that's a little tricky. I got to get inside your head, da da da. What's the situation? That's observable, right? So I could predict behavior. I could control behavior, assuming I can control the situation. So with like prisons, we would have people not committing crimes in no time. Right? We can completely control the situations. We're going to control their behavior. That's an instance where you can certainly control behavior. Advertisers would love it. They knew exactly how to control our behavior, which images to show us, which sounds to play to get us to buy certain things. Right. Beyond that, what would it mean for how you see yourself in the world, if in fact there were no such thing as personality? If you did not have a personality, if what you did was just a reaction to a combination of environmental inputs, how does that fit? How does that jibe with your worldview? Something to think about. So, in this semester, we're going to talk about six broad approaches, seven really, but the Freudian and Neo-Freudian, different flavors of the same thing, so we lump them together and call it six. Six approaches to looking at personality: psychoanalytic, trait, biological, humanistic, behavioral, and cognitive. And these are just different ways of thinking about how people are different from each other and similar to each other, right? They're different lenses for looking at people. Your psychoanalytic looks at kind of internal conflict in the mind, using a lot of conceptual terms, and about how you have these impulses or drives, things that you want and that you're afraid to want, and then dealing with those impulses affects how you act with people. Trait theorists who don't say anything about why you are the way you are, they really are about quantifying personality and saying, okay, well, people are different on these different traits, these ways of being, and everybody's at different levels. Right? So not different types of people. There's just people who are at different levels on all these traits. Right? And you have your biological perspective, which really is more of an etiological theory, talking about why people are the way they are, looking at genetics and evolutionary theory. You have your humanistic folks who look more at free will, self-determination, those kinds of things. Your behaviorists who look at that stimulus response, who really is kind of that situational argument of maybe there is no personality. And then your cognitive, which looks at kind of that thinking cognitive filter of when stimuli come in, the thing that makes you you is how you think about the stuff that's coming in, how you process it, right? What you choose to attend to, what you remember, right? Those kind of things. So these are all different ways of looking at people, different lenses, and they largely differ with regard to the questions they ask about people. They ask really different questions sometimes. But sometimes they will also ask very similar questions, and they'll come up with different answers. Right? Meaning that maybe one is right, one is wrong. Maybe. Or maybe one is more right for some people and one is more right for others. I don't know. I'll be interested to see what you think about that as you learn about these theories. The last thing to touch on before I let you go is just to remind you that personality does exist in a cultural context. Right? We often act as if it exists in a vacuum, but it certainly does not. And one thing that we've become increasingly aware of is there's a strong Western bias in our knowledge base about personality and about human behavior. So when we say, oh, people are this way, we're generally talking about Western people, people in Western nations, like the United States. And people, what we know about people may not be universal, right? People from Eastern countries may be very different in important ways in terms of these personality variables. In terms of, talking about trait theory, what are the fundamental traits? They might be different. It might just be that they're at different levels. They may have a different trait structure. Right? And one of the primary differences to kind of be mindful of in terms of cultural differences is when looking at individualistic versus collectivistic cultures. Um, and that's one of the things. There's lots of research saying, well, these uh, often we can look kind of geographically. People who live in this region tend to be more collectivistic. People who live in this region tend to be more individualistic, which again glosses over some important individual differences. Where some people in the West are fairly collectivistic, but the majority of people in the West are more individualistic. Um, and that's an important thing to know when trying to predict behavior. So say, well, if I assess their personality, I'll know uh, what they're going to do. Well, yeah, but if you use the kind of the standard personality assessments, you get one set of information, and you have two individuals. And they have the same answers on a personality test, but one individualistic, one collectivistic. That one little piece of information may really change what you think about that person and what you think in terms of predicting their behavior. Okay. So what you need to be doing, remember chapter 1 quiz, the syllabus quiz, and then your first journal entry. All right. I look forward to working with you all this semester. Take care.